Welcome to the Awakened Goddess Show, your source for inspiration, wisdom, and personal discovery. The place to learn from a diverse mix of mentors, metaphysical experts, spiritual leaders, and best-selling authors from around the world. I'm Angela Wilkinson, attraction coach and founder of The Goddess Next Door. Join me as I explore the minds of my masterful guests while they share powerful insights and easy-to-use tools you can start using right away. Now, let's tap into the energy of the Awakened Goddess and be enlightened by today's guest. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. Today's guest refers to herself as a free radical, definitely a woman on a mission, and one who lives her life as an experiment to see what is possible when she sees her fears as doorways to more of who she really is. Claire Dakin is the founder of Tree Sisters, a charity committed to the emergence of the collective wild and sacred feminine soul of this world. A charity calling for women to remember who and what we really are, so that we can contribute our whole selves to the rebalancing of our cultures and the protection of nature. Claire is the founder of Tree Sisters, an EcoFem UK charity exploring how nature-based feminine leadership can contribute to behavior change, specifically the acceleration of tropical reforestation through crowdfunding. Claire is a free radical, earth-loving social entrepreneur, and inspirational speaker who worked internationally for 18 years, facilitating groups, coaching business leaders, and creating behavior change processes within the personal growth sector. She worked for 3 years as a UK coordinator for a massive agroforestry initiative in southern India called Project Green Hands before initiating Tree Sisters, an organization that operates out of the wisdom of living systems. But before we learn more about Tree Sisters, I want to tell you about Spark Society. Spark Society is the place to be to get access to all of my best programs, meditation, and ebooks. Plus, I give you my secrets for manifesting love. You'll also get exclusive gifts from the Awakened Goddess Show guests that you can't get anywhere else. Ebooks, mini courses, and meditations, all beautifully created products just for you. Register for your Spark Society membership over at bit.ly/love-spark and get my Love Spark program today. Thanks for listening. Welcome, Claire, to the Awakened Goddess Show. I am so excited to have you join me today to talk about this awesome organization, Tree Sisters. So welcome.
Thank you, Angela, for having me.
Yeah. So what I understand is Tree Sisters it came about in a really odd circumstance. So I would love to hear the story behind how this came about.
Well, it was one of those unexpected life experiences. I had just spent 2 years working in India, distilling the social strategy of a major agroforestry initiative called Project Green Hands, which I completely loved because they were the first environmental organization that I'd found that brought spiritual fulfillment and social justice and environmental sustainability all together, which for those of you out there that are Pachamama people, that was like the Awaken the Dreamer crucible right there, the three things. So I had been supposedly fundraising for them. I'd just been trying to understand how they were mobilizing their whole state of 68 million people to start tree planting. And I thought I'd nailed it. I thought I'd got it down to 7 points. And about 2 days afterwards, I was driving too fast, slipped on ice, and crashed into a tree. And at the point of impact, there was a blinding flash of white light inside the car. And in the white light were 2 words, the experiment. And I was sitting looking at these 2 words going, what the hell? And this voice said, humanity is running out of time, but it's not over yet. But it's going to take all of us rising to the challenge to get through what's coming. The single greatest threat facing humanity is fear of failure. But you can get over fear of failure by calling everything you do an experiment, because you can't fail an experiment. You can only learn. At which point even though I was wrapped around a tree, I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I heard myself say, well, what's the experiment? And back came, you have to reforest the tropics within 10 years.
Mm.
And I had one of the most classic life flashing before my eyes moments. I didn't have it when I crashed into the tree. I had it when I was given this task. Because in that moment, it was like my entire body knew why I'd been doing everything I'd been doing up to that point. And it also knew that if I said yes to that, I'd almost have to completely form a new self. Like who I was, just couldn't do that. Couldn't think that big, didn't have the skill set, wasn't that confident, didn't understand what I was supposed to do, was technically incompetent, was a network phobic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just like, no, you're asking completely the wrong person to do this.
Yeah.
Or you're asking the right person and she just doesn't know it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I sat there, I went into like sweats of fear. And I think the fear was, it was like life believed in me and I didn't. Mm-hmm. Life was laying something out and I wasn't big enough on the inside to be able to pick it up. And so I just said, no, sorry, you got the wrong person. And started trying to figure out how to unwrap myself around this tree. But the voice carried on and it said, women are the missing piece. You have to mobilize the women. Women are the womb carriers and earth is womb. Mm-hmm. Feminine consciousness is the wisdom of living systems, is life-based, is cyclical, understands the seasons, goes into any system and feels how things are and then feels how to bring it back into balance. Women have to remember who and what they are or it's over. And I was listening to this and it was just like, my whole system was going, wow, yes, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's incredible. Followed by, no, you just can't ask me to do this. Like, no, my God, this is like murder.
Yeah.
And the voice just carried on. The project is called Tree Sisters. It's a crowdfunding mechanism. You have to start making it normal for everybody to give back, as normal to give back as it currently is to take. The world is living in an out-breath reality where all you do is take and take and take, regardless of the seasons, regardless of the life cycles, regardless of how long it takes for the planet to renew herself. You're just taking all the time. You've got to remember how to breathe in. You've got to remember how to rest. You've got to remember how to take when it's appropriate. And you've got to remember how to give back. And so you need to make it normal, everybody to start giving money to trees. You need to help women remember who they are and step into nature-based leadership. Now, at the time, I didn't have a clue what they meant by that, nature-based leadership. What is that? Mm-hmm. Because I didn't really have a sense about what feminine nature actually was, which is one of the reasons why I balked at the project. It was like, I don't know what it means to be a woman. Like, don't ask me to create something that helps women know what it means to be a woman. Like, I haven't even got a clue, let alone knowing how to create a network of them. But, like, the whole thing was just impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said no. I said no, and I said no for a good 9 or 10 months, and it wouldn't leave me alone.
Well, it's funny how things come to us in 9-month cycles, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
it was a painful gestation process.
Yeah. And then Tree Sisters was birthed, it sounds like. So what is the nature-based feminine leadership that you came to understand?
Well, when I finally said yes, and it was about 9 months later, the same voice came back, and I said, what is a tree sister? And they said, it's a woman who makes 5 choices. Well, what's that? To be considerate of life, encouraging of each other, intimate with nature, responsible for its upkeep, and courageous with her gifts. And I ran back home and I drew a 5-pointed star and I said, where do they belong? And I was given a place for each of these aspects of woman. And over the following 2 years, I started working with groups of women literally inside this pentagram to figure out what this actually was that I'd been given. I've been given a change tool that really helps you to understand how the repression of the feminine is largely responsible for the mess that we're in on this planet, and how sort of reinstating her or putting her back on the throne within the consciousness of men and women is the vital missing piece. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting to me was that life sat at the center of this map. I thought it was the heart, like I wanted to make it all about relationship, but actually the womb sat in the center. Mm-hmm. And the womb was life, and it was saying, yes, each of these qualities, each of these capacities only makes sense in relationship to whether or not you're going to use it to destroy or serve life. And so what started to become clear to me, and this has been a very deeply personal journey, is what has happened to women over the centuries in terms of being dislocated from our wombs and from womb consciousness, which is why I think at the car crash, it was like, women are the womb carriers. Like, I didn't get beyond, yes, we perpetuate the species. I didn't get the deeper wisdom of the womb until years later. So we're the womb carriers. The womb is the source, the resource of women's creative capacity at the deepest level, but also our direct line into the creative capacity of creation itself, if you have it. And also all 4 seasons. The death cycle and the life cycle happen every month inside a menstruating woman. It's like we have a direct plug into the lunar cycles, the tidal cycles, like cosmic energy. We are wired that way hormonally, and there are different wisdoms that move through a woman's body that we have access to if we know how to be plugged into what we're actually plugged into, which most of us don't. We have an enormous capacity for receiving wisdom from life itself through our bodies, and we just don't know. So there's the sort of basic level of what I call nature-based leadership, where what we're trying to do within Tree Sisters is bring life to the center of everything we do within the organization. So that 5-pointed star that I'm talking about, which you'll see on our homepage, we operate within that at every level. So organizationally, strategically, developmentally, everything sits inside of that map. All the education materials and empowerment materials that we're creating orient out of the wisdom of that map. And that map puts life at the center. So we're figuring out how to create an organization that works seasonally, that operates from the lunar cycles as well as the solar cycles, so that when you work for Tree Sisters or you're engaged with it, the very act of working plugs you more deeply into relationship with nature. Because classically what's happening at the moment is you go to work and you disconnect. You know, our life is designed to disconnect us from nature. We are trying to figure out how you create a way of working that reverses that flow and plugs you back into nature. So that's at the sort of organizational level. But at the personal level, the teacher that we just did this amazing course, Earth and the Moon, with, she talks about womankind as being so earth-based that when we are deeply connected to ourselves, we're literally rooted from the womb into like the core of the earth, and we can listen and we can be sort of tuning forks for what's happening at the planetary level. And that when the patriarchal society that we know now sort of did its thing and became beautifully lopsided, shall we say, in effect, it sort of pulled women up by their roots and like held them like extracted root vegetables, so that we're no longer plugged into the ground. We're held by the masculine. We're held by patriarchal society or the husband or the church or whatever however you would look at that. But we're no longer plugged in. And in that no longer plugged in place, we're then dependent not on each other and the sisterhood and life. We're dependent on the masculine.
Sure.
And so we start to compete with each other for our safety. And in that place, what we're trying to say is actually we don't belong to the masculine. What we are as women isn't defined by the masculine or the measures by which the masculine understands itself, because we're a completely different being. And if we can plug ourselves back into nature and back so that our actual energetic circuitry gets to do what it is designed for, and we get to feel who we really are at that energetic level, then we can start to feel our own nature as part of nature, and then who and what we are starts to make more sense to ourselves. And that's, I think, what Life was saying when it said women need to remember who and what they are, or it's over. Like that other consciousness that comes through womankind that is the perfect complement to the masculine needs to come through womankind.
Yes.
So nature-based feminine leadership is just what it sounds like. It is the innate leadership that would come through women when we are plugged back into who and what we really are.
Yeah, wow, that's very rich. how Tree Sisters is not just about nature and trees, as one might think just by the name, but it sounds like it's really about empowering women to embrace their femininity and, as you say, plug back into those cycles and really embrace the power that is found there.
Absolutely. I mean, just imagine right now we've had thousands of women being, in a sense, at some level of disconnection from who and what we really are.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been taught to live a linear existence, which is the masculine way, because they don't have the cyclical hormonal system that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been taught to drive straight over the top of our cyclical nature, which is exactly what we're doing with the cyclical nature of the seasons and the planets and how our Earth actually creates life. We just go straight over the top of that as well. Imagine if half the world's population said, actually, no, we're not linear.
Mm-hmm.
And what that would do to the consciousness of our world. So, what would happen if womankind said, you know what, it's time to actually become what we really are. And what we really are creates a completely different possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that possibility is much more life-based. It's like we're home-based, we're health-based, we're relationship-based. We're not so, we're competitive in our shadow side, but our natural side is not. It's collaborative, it's co-creative.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of consciousness that we actually need to start birthing different possibilities and systems and ways of being and doing that are life-based and actually look to the perpetuation of our species in abundance rather than going into this nightmarish scenario that we're currently creating for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm really, it's a big deal trying to do a project like this.
It is.
But at the same time, it's like the possibility of it actually making a difference and womankind really starting to question who and what we are, mm-hmm. and figuring out a different way of bringing our gifts forward to create something that actually makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If we had 10,000 women giving $15 a month, that's over 1 million trees a year. Yeah. We need hundreds of thousands of women just in their bodies going, it no longer makes sense to just take all the time. The thing that only makes sense is to give back. Mm-hmm. We are part of this planet. We need to take care of this planet. When we, I will do this project until it fully fledges and then hopefully beyond and become, takes on a life of its own. But it needs to be that humanity wakes up enough to say, wow, we have to actually take care of our life support system. Mm-hmm. And the forests, they're our breath. It's like, you don't just keep cutting down a forest and expect to keep breathing.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, we have had the tendency to take and not give back, and that clearly disrupts that natural cycle. Yeah. And, it, as you're talking and hearing your story about the car accident and gosh, I mean, just the woman that you have had to step into, because you were yourself saying, no, I'm not the right person. Yet here you are. So it sounds like you had this amazing, powerful, and tremendous journey from that point to here. And so I'm wondering if you can talk about your own experience of what you really had to step into, maybe even before you felt like you were ready.
Well, there are days in which I still don't think I'm ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't lie. It's been really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been hard it's been hard on so many levels. It's also been incredibly beautiful. What's been hardest for me has been, none of us like doing things that we're bad at consistently.
Right.
And there was not one area that I would say that I felt strong in. So I was playing from my own weaknesses consistently for a very long time. And I still am to a degree because we're still birthing the organization. So I'm still waiting around in administration and organization. And, I had to birth a charity. I had to understand how to even go about doing that in England, which is not an easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Create a team. I hadn't got a clue, let alone accounting, finances, board meetings, computers. I was almost totally computer illiterate. Now I was having to create a network and understand social media. You know, I mean, that's all that's the furniture. But actually, at the deepest level, dealing with inadequacy, you know, perceived inadequacy, shame, feeling of failure every 5 minutes when I tried something new and it didn't go well, and my team would go, Claire, it's an experiment. You can't learn. You know, you can't fail. You can only learn. And I'd be like, oh, damn that. You know?
Yeah.
But if I hadn't had that message, and I think that's why it was so powerful. It was so powerful. You cannot fail an experiment. You can only learn. Because it's been like the blind leading the blind. You know, I started from nothing. I had no capital whatsoever. And the reason I said yes was because I sat down and I thought, you know what? What do I want to do with my life? Like, am I going to continually play small because I'm afraid, because I'm insecure, because I don't think that I've got terribly much to offer? You know, am I going to believe that when I know that that's just a product of where I come from, and where I come from doesn't actually define me really, not at a soul level? It might have programmed my personality, but do I even want this personality anymore? You know, am I willing to trust life, that life knows me way more than I know myself? And that if life thinks I'm capable, then there's got to be some gold in here for me. And there's been so much gold, because it has turned me inside out, and it still is turning me inside out. You know, I'm having to fundraise now. I'm in a major fundraising pitch, because we've been, what I would say, like in the deep exploratory phase for the last 4 years, like really understanding what it means to create a life-based organization, really understanding how to create materials and tools that women can pick up and really nourish themselves with and create a new possibility. Like, I've had to do the whole journey myself before I can stand in any place of integrity and say, here is the offering.
Yes.
So it's been like dying and being reborn again about every 6 months, and thinking, oh, right, finally I'm ready. And then like, no, we're still in the starting blocks. And then, oh, finally I'm ready. And like, no, you're still in the starting blocks. And like, now I feel like, oh, okay, now we're ready. Now it means I have to go out and really fundraise. Yeah. And that's a whole other layer of, okay, this isn't about me. Don't personalize it. Understand that what you're creating is something that life has asked you to do. There will be women out there who are looking for this. Life isn't going to ask you to do something that it doesn't want to support. So at every step of the way, it's been not just letting my own personality fall away and let what I really am have enough space to come forward and inform me, but it's also stepping into the very thing that I'm talking about, which is nature-based leadership, where you let life lead and you say, okay, I'll show up, I'll do my side. Now I need you to help and bring in the other players. And so it's been like learning to become porous. It's been dropping my own defense mechanisms, my fear, my lack-based consciousness has been huge. Yeah. And that is, I think, what anybody has to do if you're entrepreneurial in any way, or you're fed up with playing small and you realize that you just got to bring something. You got to understand that life is going to call you on all the places that you feel safe in your smallness. And it's going to shine a bloody great bright light on it and say, look, are you willing? Are you really willing? Because now we're going to get the heavy machinery out, and we're going to start cutting away at that as well. Yeah. And saying, yes, okay, do it to me. Like, okay, oh God, not again. Here we go again. And here we go again. And here we go again. But I can't ask women to step up if I'm not going to do it myself. I can't say, you know what, I know this is really hard, but actually, what are we here for? As women are not small, and we've been taught to be. Yes. You know, or we've been taught to try and become big by being more like men, and that's not it either. And stepping up as a woman means that we have to move through all the conditioning that thousands and thousands of women and generations of women have been programmed with, and we got to bust that programming. And it can be, it can be. It's just programming. It's not real. It's not true. It's just stuff, but it feels true in our bodies.
Yeah, exactly. And, as awful as the car crash was, what a beautiful turning point. It was like that wake up call that brought you to where you are now, to really step into who you are to be in this life, and to just keep walking through the fire and facing those fears, because like you said, we are living in a world where we're kind of encouraged to play small, and it's the easier path. And, a lot of times I think we have a calling inside that we keep quiet because we don't want to face those fears, because like you said, every single day you are going to come up against another belief or another fear or another something that's going to create discomfort within you so you can grow. So, wow.
That was one of the questions that you wrote to me, was something like, what is something that you've adopted as a spiritual practice, or something that's helped you with what you're doing? Mm-hmm. And you just named it for me. I've had to learn how to disconnect from the part of my mind that says, why am I feeling this? What does this mean? What is this about? How can I analyze the shit out of this?
Mm-hmm.
What I've had to learn to do is say, okay, life, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
I'll feel that. Okay, that's really uncomfortable, but I will feel it, because I know that if you're asking me to feel it, then it's because I can feel it out of existence and I can grow more.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've created another scenario where I'm out of my depth. Okay, you obviously know that I can at some point be in my depth there, and the process through it is being out of my depth first. So I will feel it, and just consistently learning to trust life. Feel it. Just feel it,
mm-hmm.
until I've grown up enough to be that next shape that can accomplish more. Okay, so now there's this version of me. And I hold that lightly as well, because I know that around the next corner, something else is going to say, right, you ready for this? And I'll say, no, I'm not, but I'll do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's been what this has asked of me. It's asked me to let go of being attached to who I think I am.
Yeah.
And be willing to trust that life is growing me for something.
Mm-hmm.
This, apparently.
Yeah. Whew, some big shoes to fill.
I've got little feet.
Oh, gosh. And, I think about what it takes to start an organization or step out and really show up big in life. And it seems like there's a really fine balance between the feminine and the masculine. And really, it's a skill to know when to use which energy and how to balance that so you can be most effective. So,
oh, yes.
Yeah. And
that's such a crucial observation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been what I found. That's what I found hardest, because the masculine way, and so I just want to hands up here. I'm not saying masculine bad, feminine good.
Right.
I'm saying they're both an absolute complementary pair, and they're both needed. And it's the imbalance that we're struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm.
but the masculine way is what we've become comfortable with, and that's like the outward measurable results for everything. It's like, what do you do? How do you achieve it? What's your timeline? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Feminine way is mysterious. It happens in darkness. It's emergent. It's intuitive. It flows, it allows, it follows. And so here I've been trying to create something out of the feminine principle, but trying to do it in a masculine world. And so I thought, right, I'm going to do a crowdfunding campaign. This is like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever. And I'm going to get this, and this is going to be done by then, and that's what's going to happen, and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I start like storming off down that runway, and then I hit all sorts of financial difficulties because our payment system stopped working, and I didn't realize, and then I tried to change it over to another one, and that didn't work. And so we started brilliantly, and then it just died because of my technical incompetence.
Yeah.
And I went into such like, oh my God, just I failed, all of this. And then I suddenly realized a few months down the line, actually what I was doing was completely out of the old paradigm. It was completely yes, I'm going to do this with this like measurable thing, and then it's going to be this amount of trees by this amount of time. And actually, that's not the essence of tree systems. That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is create something that teaches you or that helps you to realize that by coming into right relationship with life yourself, which is essentially reinstating the feminine principle, which is the left-hand side of the map, or the right-hand side if you look at it on the website, the arm of encouragement and the leg of intimacy. By reinstating that, your system naturally wants to respond, which is the place of giving back.
Mm-hmm.
But if you try and ask people, right, okay, we've got a global crisis, you need to give more. What you're going to hit is what's happening at the moment, which is I've got nothing to give. Nothing to give financially. I've got nothing to give energetically because I'm exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stressed. I'm overwrought. My to-do list is 6 miles long. I can't. Just don't ask me to add anything else. So what we're doing differently is we're trying to reinstate the feminine, which is okay. Instead of saying, please, will you give? We're saying, what can we give to you?
Mm-hmm.
How can we help you learn how to plug back in so that you can nourish yourself? These are all our empowerment materials and the tools and everything that we're creating for women, so that when we come out with our offering finally later in this year, it'll be coming from a place of here. Here are this plethora of ways to resource, nourish, and water yourselves, to come back into alignment with who you really are, to feel full enough to be able to give back. And from there, we can start to give. And so I've really struggled with the amount of time it's taken for us, I mean, as an organization, for probably 2.5 years. I wanted to do it in 6 months. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have an idea, it feels like it should be possible immediately. But actually, the amount of time that it takes to take something from spirit and ground it in matter takes way longer than you ever think it's going to take.
Yes.
Then also try and do something from the feminine principle. Hand yourself over to the goddess. She will say, right, you know, walk into that darkened room, put a blindfold on. Now you're going to have to learn how to really operate from emergence. And emergence happens in its own time. You don't put a seed in the ground and then force it to grow. You wait.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to be taught by life, then you have to get onto life's timing. Life's timing does not operate in a linear way according to timeline. It operates out of the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And so this has taken longer than I would ever have wanted it to. But now, where we are now, when I see what we've grown, the wisdom that's sitting inside this organization, the time it's taken to grow the root system that we've got has been extraordinary, but utterly necessary. Like now what we're building has integrity at the deepest level, is something that I passionately believe in.
Yeah.
And can invite anybody into and say, here, look at this. This is remarkable. This is genuinely different.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't just a regurgitation of another crowdfunding or tree campaign.
Yeah.
This is something that brings women and trees together as two faces of the feminine from a consciousness that is seeking a completely different relationship with life.
Mm-hmm.
A whole different way of approaching everything. And that has it's taken time.
Yes. I want to talk about something that you've just done. You've planted your first 15,000 trees in southern India. So that's a huge success.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I want to know why you're planting there and what your goals are.
Well, that was where I first fell in love with reforestation.
Mm-hmm.
That was the project that this all arose out of, Project Green Hands in southern India. 12 of their major rivers have already dried up. So southern India was one of the parts of the tropics where the monsoons came. The monsoons are now so disrupted they're not actually happening anymore. What they're having instead are what we would call cyclones or normal depressions, but they're sort of yearly dumping of rain that they used to fill up their tanks with and then live on for the rest of the year. It's basically stopped.
Oh.
And for a while they had seriously heavy monsoons. And so they completely flooded out. And when they flooded out, it took all the topsoil. So agricultural land was dying for lack of topsoil.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, oh, we got too much water. And then all of a sudden the monsoons stopped altogether. They had 3 years without monsoon. And you can't even imagine, like, your earth is like concrete when it's just baking in 40 degrees sunshine without any water for 3 years. So they've lost a lot of their rivers. There is a large population. India, whichever state you're in, it's a highly populated part of the world. And they were having increasing numbers of farmer suicides, thousands and thousands of farmer suicides. And when the farmer commits suicide by drinking whatever poisonous products he's been sold by us Westerners, the women and children are left destitute. So you've got once incredibly fertile agricultural land just dying. You've got women and children being left destitute. You've got whole millions of people that are heading for famine. And you've still got heavy, intensive agriculture going in there and doing even more damage to the land. So the reason that I'm wanting to plant there is because it's not just nature saving. And it is nature saving because when you work with agroforestry, which is what we're doing, so we're actually helping farmers grow trees on their own land. To bring back the soil, bring back the farmers, give the farmers other sources of income, but also prevent the farming community, which is vast in Tamil Nadu, heading off into the forests themselves to cut down the forests to get what they need. So growing trees on farmland also protects the native forest. So it's avoided deforestation simultaneously with actual reforestation. The trees themselves are a variety of different tropical species, some fruit in order to provide sustenance, a lot of hardwoods which will be cut. But again, when a tree is cut, 3 more are planted, and they take a long time to grow, hardwoods. So you're talking anything between 7 and 40 years before a tree is cut. They're like the farmer's life insurance. Like if a farmer dies, then a tree can be cut and his family will survive, but more will be planted. So you've got trees for fuel, which will be pollarded. So these are trees that just grow back incredibly fast. For fencing, for oil products, and short term, they are being taught how to grow black pepper vines on their trees so that they can use the pepper as a secondary source of income. So we're rehabilitating farmland. We are redrawing the. So what you may or may not know is when you have tree roots present and it rains, tree roots act as like funnels down to the underground aquifers. When you take the tree roots out and there is no sort of green cover to hold the soil in place, the water no longer drains down into the aquifers so well, which is why when you take away the trees, the rivers dry up. So when you bring back the trees, you bring back the groundwater, what falls from the trees in terms of biomass from either the tree itself or from birds and insects and everything, refertilizes the soil. The trees then hold the soil in place. So you're refertilizing, you're bringing back the water, you're bringing back fertility to the soil so they can actually grow their crops. You're also creating shade, which is incredibly important in that level of heat for the animals and for the people. And you're bringing back biodiversity. It's like this win-win-win across the whole, including, of course, a tree is carbon made visible. They're made of carbon. So we're also helping with carbon reduction. And the tropical forest belt, which is why we're focusing on the tropics, is the single greatest weather moderator that we have. It's the rain creators, and it's the cooler. It's like the air conditioning system. So we're very much encouraging tree sisters all around the world to just get their hands dirty and plant wherever they are, because we desperately need more trees. But all of us also need to be acting as if this whole planetary system is one being that is supporting all of us. Every fourth breath comes from the Amazon. And if we trash it, then, it's not just our oxygen that we're losing our planet's capacity to restabilize itself. So our plans are this year, hopefully, we're about to launch a major crowdfunding campaign either on Kickstarter or Indiegogo at the end of March, so any minute now.
Yep.
So I'll just say this is being interviewed a little bit earlier, so this last plan is yet to fall into place, but you'll have the details any minute now, and they'll be on our website, to create our next fully interactive website and to do a rebranding so that we can take this whole initiative to the next level. We're going to launch then with a major tree campaign. I want to raise thousands and thousands of trees for this coming monsoon. And it won't just be India. We'll be looking at different projects, possibly Costa Rica, possibly Kenya, possibly Ethiopia. We're in the process of going through due diligence with various projects to really see, okay, we want to be able to create a spectacular portfolio for anybody that funds Tree Sisters to know that you are growing trees for different purposes around the world that also help women and that also work to maintain the integrity of the cultures and the communities in which we're planting. So we're finding exemplary projects, and we'll be creating ongoingly a portfolio of them, of which Project Green Hands is one.
Yeah. Oh, love it. So how can the listeners get involved?
Oh, just come to our website, treesisters.org. Understand that that's a work in progress and that the new one is on its way soon. It'll have the link to the crowdfunding campaign. It will have the link to our join in page. It will have the link to what a tree sister actually is so that you can really feel your deep resonance with this. And if you are a woman who just passionately loves nature and wants to step forward in your gifts, and I can tell you now, you're a tree sister and we need you. So please join us. When you join us, you'll start getting a monthly newsletter that'll tell you about our full moon and new moon calls. So every full moon, we have a deep dive meditation call that links with the seasons to help bring our whole global network together. We've got women all over the world who tune in, and we do some sort of a journey to weave our energy and our intention together and call forth the sort of world that we want. At the new moon, we have a call where we either introduce new partners to the network or we harvest from the network our ideas. So new moon is the time for seeding and our full moon is the time for dropping. You can also find us, our blog, which will link to our website. It's on WordPress. That's amazing. Please subscribe. We have the most exquisite posts every moon cycle. So you can learn so much more about how to deepen in your relationship with nature. We're also on SoundCloud. So soundcloud.com/Tree Sisters is where all of the meditations that we've ever done are. You'll also find daily practices, how to bring light into your body, how to operate with nature, to ground yourself, to build your confidence, to nurture yourself. On Facebook, we've got almost 50,000 followers on Facebook. We've also got, and it's a beautifully inspiring page, I have to say. We've also got the Talking Tree, which is our forum on Facebook, which is where the community are finding each other currently before we've got this new website. We're active on Pinterest, we're active on Twitter.
Nice.
So we're all over the place, but mainly on our blog and in our website. We just deeply and heartfully call for you, especially if you are a woman of means who is looking to find a place to put your energy and your resources to grow something that can make a difference in this world. We are looking for you actively now. This is something of great integrity that needs to go to scale, and it needs to do it this year. So please get in contact with me, which is Claire without an I, the no-eyed Claire, CLARE @treesisters.org, or contact info@treesisters.org. And please join us. Just join us in whatever way, with the crowdfunding, becoming a regular donor, a leaf, a branch, or a root in our giving tree. Join us on our calls. Find a way of bringing this into your life so that we can come together, nurture each other, hold hands, and step into a different level of feminine leadership on behalf of this extraordinary planet of ours.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, Claire, I absolutely love nature, and I get out into nature every single day, whether hiking or just walking, and I talk to the trees. And so I am so honored to be able to talk with you and share this organization with the Awakened Goddess listeners, because I know that there are women out there that feel the same way that I do about nature. And, I know I want to be involved. And I'm sure that there are many other of the listeners that also want to be involved. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for letting me go on and on and on.
Yeah,
The thing that I love so much. I deeply, deeply, sincerely appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And now I'd love to hear from you. The most awesome discussions happen after the show over at theawakenedgoddess.com. So get yourself over there and leave a comment right now. Did you enjoy this episode? If so, subscribe to the show. And of course, it would be amazing if you shared this with all of your friends. And if you want even more incredible resources, come on over to theawakenedgoddess.com and sign up for email updates. And until next time, goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Awakened Goddess. I hope you enjoyed today's show and took away something you can start using in your life right away. For more spiritual insights and to listen to more episodes, subscribe to The Awakened Goddess Show at thegoddessnextdoor.com and discover wisdom that'll change your life.